Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Laz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday.
Hi Walnut, it is me Laz here for another episode of Walnut Wednesday. Welcome to episode 144, yay! And of course, I have my beautiful best friend in the whole world, Kate, with us here. Welcome, Kate. Welcome back.
Hello. Yeah,
Hello.
back again.
Back again. And so Walnut, this week, I wanted to share, as promised, a little bit of our love story. Like, if you're new here, Kate comes on every 10-ish episodes or so, and basically you're a fly on the wall for our conversations. So I thought we haven't really touched on it that much, but the love story of Kate and Laz, how it began. What do you think, Kate?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So I think Kate, I will get you to introduce yourself first for the Walnuts who are new listening, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I won't say too much because I'll let you explain the story. But yeah, we've been friends for a long time. I live in London, but I am from New Zealand and met Lara at uni. And I am a freelance film producer, mostly doing like commercials and social media campaigns and little mini documentaries and things like that. And yeah, I'll let you take it back to whatever year it was, 2010, 2009, 2010.
Oh my gosh, I don't actually know, but basically we met, it was in philosophy class, wasn't it? Was it philosophy?
Yeah, it was.
So I actually ended up, maybe Kate, you can say how you ended up in philosophy. I ended up in philosophy of the arts, I think. Or was it 101? I think of the arts. And it was because I had failed German because I can speak German fluently, but I didn't do any of the homework or show up to the lectures because it was so easy in the beginning, and then I missed the theory part of it and I couldn't get away with speaking the language fluently, and I failed a paper, so I had to like recover and do an extra little paper. And philosophy of the arts seemed to be the most not easy, but something that I could kind of get on board with and kind of essay my way through at the time. How about you, Kate? What was philosophy like for you?
So it was just mostly to supplement, I guess, like the artsy kind of studying I was doing. When I went into uni, I didn't know what I was like. I wasn't going to like get qualified for a career.
Me too.
I just kind of went with the approach of study what I like, and that might help me find where I want to go. And so I basically like concentrated on books and movies, like English literature and film, and then like other papers thrown in there were like classical studies and philosophy. And I mean, I always liked a good debate. I like questioning those kind of moral issues. It felt something very first year university to do. But it was mostly just a supplement. I nearly did a minor in philosophy, but I ended up not wanting to commit to that because I was already double majoring. That was boring, but
yeah. Same with me, Walnut, as well, where it was like I enjoyed photography, drama, and film stuff, so gonna go into that at university. Didn't really have a career path like in mind. So anyway, we both ended up in philosophy. We're both doing like filmy theatre. I was doing more theatre stuff than you, I think, Kate, but like it was sort of similar majors. And it was actually through an adult student that was so annoying.
Yeah.
Wasn't she, Kate? She was like, I mean, power to her going back to uni, like, and using her voice and all the things, but shut up.
It wasn't relevant. That's the thing. I'm all for people participating and generating discussion, even like having an argument that I disagree with. I will argue that. Literally, even the tutor was like, I don't know what you're on. It was just a stream of consciousness.
Yeah, she just wanted to talk, Walnut. It was actually real funny. And I think we were in the lift at the university, and she was still, because Kate and I ended up in a tutorial together, which is like outside the normal lectures where you do a bit more like in-depth conversations about the topics. And she was in our tutorial, of course. So we got to hear her tenfold, not just in the lectures. And so we're in this lift, all the people in the tutorial, and she gets out. And then I think that's when, Kate, you and I, we kind of locked eyes and we went, oh my God. And we just like released our frustrations about this poor woman.
It's like we just knew, like the whole time was thinking it. And I was looking, it was you and another girl, Liv, who we were friends with for a bit. We kind of fallen out of touch with, but like lovely girl. And I remember being like, I don't know really many people at uni anyway. Like I was still first year, I was commuting. I think you were commuting too. And it was like, it's harder to make friends that way. And I just thought, fuck it. Like these girls look like they're also dying inside. So we got to bond over that mutual annoyance, and we're like, let's go for a coffee or something.
Yeah, and then we went and got food and caught up. Yeah, and
it's been 12 years.
So that was basically like how it sort of started. I think I think Haley was also there, I ended up graduating with her too. She's who now lives with a friend that I worked with at blah 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 blah. Anyway, but yeah, that's how it sort of started, Walnut. And then basically we became uni friends. And in that sort of time, both Kate and I together, but also individually, did like these little weird sets of like growing up in some ways. Like I think Kate then the year after moved into one of the dorms. So you got to have that like really step into that like party girl university college experience, and I kind of moved into Wellington and had my like grungy bogan flat escapades, which was gee Louise. We both sort of had these, but we would still continue to like meet up together in the mornings for study breaks, check each other's essays, have beans and eggs for breakfast.
Yep. And I was just taking a cup of tea because my third year, my flat was literally right by, that was a great grungy uni flat. And it was right by like basically where the film block was. And when we would have early morning, like 10 a.m., we'd be like, walk over with our cup of tea to watch our film that we were going to discuss. And I mean, we didn't know how lucky we had it, really.
Oh, honestly, I think of those times and I remember them fondly because it was just so good. We just had tinned food, tea. You had tea, and just yarned about stuff. But also we bonded on like flat drama and friend drama, and so we had this like little, is the right word cohesion, Kate, where it was just like fused together of like really intellectual study conversations in terms of like essay writing and stuff, while at the same time we had that like girly friendly braid your hair at a sleepover conversation as well. So we actually like became these friends that you could kind of like do all the categories with, which I think was such a privilege to me. And this is why I've treasured our friendship over the years, because there are so many different facets of our friendship that are alive.
Well, you've nailed it. I think we met each other at a time that was transformative for ourselves, like you say. So you hadn't known me as how everyone had known me at high school and vice versa. So we hadn't put each other in any kind of box, which meant we could be, watch really artsy, like, pretentious, some would say, films together, and like not just sit there and critique it like assholes, but also just like literally enjoy ourselves with junk food watching these films, but also could go on nights out and be those like party girls, because we were also finding ourselves and growing. So it wasn't like, nothing you did was like subversive to how I'd put you in a box, because there hadn't been a box formed. And that's probably why we've stayed friends for so long, or maybe also just got along for so long, because there's been nothing that's happened that's sort of been like, oh, well, that's not like you. that's not the person that I've decided you are, because we were always very in flux. Like, I think you were there when I had my first big breakup, and then moved out for the first time of home, and just university in itself is a bit of a, discovery, and then having our mutual love of things. So I think that's why it's always been interesting, because we sort of got to see each other literally in this really transformative time, without judgment, without preconceptions, and that's kind of pure.
I love that. And I want to add on top of that as well, it's like we were able to take each other seriously while also have that like party binge drinking. I mean, I grew up in like a binge drinking town, so like, not that you and I binge drink, but
Sure.
It's that seriousness at the same time of the partying, because I think I didn't really get a lot. Well, in my later Walnut years, is something that I've sort of feared, is like one thing that I really had to be courageous with, especially like with this podcast and with stuff that I'm trying to do with Walnut Wednesday now, is like I have the fear of my friends who, like, they've seen me like yakking up over the toilet, they've seen me be really naughty and a silly party girl. Do they take me seriously? And I know that I love your friends, I know you do, but also that's where our friendship, Kate, I think was a little bit different, because we had that like academia side to the friendship.
Definitely. I completely agree. I think there was nothing that seemed out of place, and we could be both things. I think that's really special in any friendship or relationship, is often, I am different people, or not different people, but like I match the energy of the different friendship groups. Like, we're not going to act the exact same way probably with colleagues that are friends. Or I've got my team of netball girls, and there's something very special about the energy there, and probably don't speak as, academically with them. We talk about nonsense, but that's fine. But that's quite special, as we can do both, and you don't get that all the time. And there's something so like comfortable and freeing about that. And I love it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Walnut, if you, in a Walnut shell, wanted to know how me and Kate fell in love, that's kind of how. And if you have any more questions, obviously Kate and I love to yap. So please let us know in the Walnut Tree if you want to know other things about like us in a friendship. But I think what later happened is that in discussions, we've both kind of always had this like travel on our brains. I think from a very young age, my dad was always talking to me about when you do your OE, and that's probably because my parents are immigrants from another country as well. But I've always had that, and when you finish university, very patriarchy, but when you finish university, you're going to go do your OE, you can go live overseas. And so overseas was always in the brain. And so I think, Kate, you had similar.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, mom was born and bred New Zealander, family never really went anywhere, did anything, but she married my dad, who'd come over as a child from England, so he traveled a bit, but they just threw convention out the window, I think. So like, dad went back to study in America, and they had me there, and then they got a project. My dad worked in communities across the world, so lived in Canada, lived in South Africa, so I'd experienced sort of travel. I loved getting on a plane and all that kind of stuff by the time I was about 9. And so before I went to uni and after I went to uni, I actually took like a gap year. So I took a pre-gap year and a post-gap year, and that both of those involved travel for me, which I just felt from a very young age was intrinsically valuable, and something that genuinely, I'm not sure I'd be who I was without it. I think it shaped me from a very young age.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've been fortunate enough to sort of like intermingle our travel trips along the way as well, Kate. But I think we always spoke about it together and the trips that we were wanting to do. And I remember like talking about like bucket list stuff that we wanted to do together when I used to work at the suntan clinic and stuff. And I think this is another like one of those facets of our friendship, because we both kind of get that way of traveling. And for me, Walnut, travel has been something that's made me insane. I was traveling when Walnut Wednesday was born. I was doing the Trans-Siberian trip. I was in Russia when it sort of first started. So I would really like to, Kate, get onto this topic of travel and walnutting and how that kind of like correlates with like wellness, personal growth, bettering yourself, and all the things. So I would love for you if you could take that away, Kate, and tell me what you think about traveling in relation to walnutting is.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge one. Like I've been wanting, it's kind of daunting almost to like sink your teeth into. But traveling for me, I mean, I've traveled with people, but mostly apart from staying with friends or doing little stints, I've done a lot solo as well. And my first stint at that was my gap year. So I saved up and I was about 19 and I had in my head, I really wanted to do through this program, like volunteering for change, but I ended up going to Moldova and Eastern Europe for a month and staying with family in Europe in between all of that. So, you know, fairly safe, you know, family, uncle and aunties staying at their place in England and seeing family in Spain. I mean, I'm getting myself on those flights and things like that. But like, you know, I had family, but I remember the first night in Moldova and, you know, I'm at a host family's house in this very daunting apartment block, but it was a culture shock, and that's the truth of it. And just sitting there like shaking, being like, what have I done? And this, like, okay, we're not super old, but this is not that I did not have Wi-Fi. I did not have a smartphone. I had like a laptop with no connection to anything. So like you didn't even have that short, quick check-in, have a FaceTime, you know, it felt like I was there, and that, you know, I'm pretty sure my parents didn't even know the address of the house I was in Moldova, which is wild. But I, not only did I get through that, I'd gone there to challenge myself and to like see something of the world that I hadn't seen, and you know, do something that maybe would be at some degree useful. And I don't think I changed anyone's life while I was there, except for my own probably. But you know, I grew to like, you know, take my little commute in like Chisinau over to the capital city of Moldova to the orphanage and spend my day there. And we had other volunteers and do these things. And I guess it's something that like it sticks with you. And anyway, to hark back to walnut, there's like 1,000 examples of walnutting in that one trip. And something that I'd never really considered myself like super confident, super, you know, just brave, I guess. But I think Lulu said on the previous episode, it's like, it's in the doing. And I did it. And I love traveling. I love seeing new places. And that was, you know, a completely different experience because that was more like work, volunteer work, that kind of thing. But I've traveled a lot on my own. And I think there's something so valuable about making yourself your own hero of the story or your own rescuer, in the sense of like, you can do so much more than you think you can do, but you've not necessarily been in a situation outside your comfort zone to test it. Like, even if it's just asking someone for directions, you don't have to know where everything is. You're not going to. But like having the sense to ask for directions, or picking a hotel, or trying to say, you know, in a different language to order a lunch, or not missing, you know, getting on your flights. I've mentioned before, I've missed flights. It happens. Sorting it out when things go wrong, you know. Every step of it is walnutting, like going out for a meal on your own. If you decide to travel on your own, walnutting. And you know, someone might try that once and it's not for them, they don't enjoy it, but they certainly know that they'd be okay, or they certainly will learn something about themselves, and hopefully meet, you know, other people. And like, all of our issues and things, they matter, but it's good to sort of get out there in the world and remind yourself, not like, oh, you know, everything's so bad over here, I should be grateful. Just remembering everyone else, all these other people are having these commutes, or rolling their eyes about something, or frustrated, or, you know, having to pick the kids up, or whatever, that we're actually, you know, just part of this incredible kind of thing that is like this humanity thing, and we're more alike than we are different, and the differences can be really fun to explore and experience, not scary.
Yeah, I love that. And it's still on my like life. Obviously, I have a Jordan and we've been together even when Kate and I first met, Jordan and I were together. So I've always had a Jordan. We're like infused into one now. But it has always been on my like life bucket list to travel on my own, whether it's not abroad, whether it's just packing up the car and staying somewhere in New Zealand a few hours away or something. Because I feel like it would be liberating and it would do things to my like nervous system that I need it to happen, but I still get that from travel with someone else anyway. But I felt called to sort of mention that it reminded me of my dad. He would sometimes go to the bar and have a few pints by himself, and then I'd go in when I was a bit older, I'd go and meet him and have some more pints with my dad. But he always said that it was just so liberating to go to a bar by yourself and sit there. But he did say, like, it's a bit different for you because you're a girl. Hashtag patriarchy. But I mean, and it is, and I suppose, yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it is. But he said it's just so liberating to sit here by myself with my thoughts and people watch. And I was like, oh my God, I actually would love to do that. So I think that like that same sort of feeling would be to travel on your own and to do the things on your own as well.
Yeah, and I talk about traveling on a lot, and I mean, I had a partner for a very brief time, but he never went traveling. It wasn't really a thing that he was interested in, which probably was another reason why we weren't quite right for each other, which is fine. But like, I don't, I love traveling my own. It was something, I guess the word travel as well, like the connotation with that is it's not just a holiday, which maybe is a little more like, which is I'm all for, by the way, but like getting the nice hotel and like being quite comfortable. Like I was mostly like that classic, basically backpacking, bones in your ass kind of travel, and not, having a paper map and working out where my hostel was and like, that kind of thing, and traveling in the sense of spending an extended period of time in an area or whatever. But holidays or like going abroad, going somewhere different, even if it is to do some tours with some friends and eat some really nice food and have some nice drinks. Like in New Zealand, you can, go, first of all, so many places in New Zealand because it's gorgeous. And every time we're back, we go somewhere new. Or you go to Australia or, Southeast Asia or the islands or whatever. And that's also intrinsically valuable because what you've done is you carved out a chunk of your time, which you will remember because it's distinctive from the rest of your time. And I learned this through like kind of a psychology like course about happiness, which is that, memories aren't ever going to get old. Like a new car will someday not stop being your new car, it will just become your car. And then it'll become your old car, and then it'll be something you want to get rid of. And everything, clothes and everything that you can kind of purchase is a short-term gratification, which can be really fun and really great. But like if you buy a new dress and you wear that dress in Greece and there's a photo of you by the beach in Greece, when that outfit's boring and old or whatever, you looking great and feeling great and with your mates in Greece is something you could always remember and can't get old. Like it gets old with time, but it can't get like battered or worn down, or like it can't get normal because it was a one-time thing. And the revisiting of the memory kind of means you sort of bring up happiness or feelings, and you share something with friends. Like if you're alone, maybe that's just something you can remember and feel proud of or feel pleased about. But if you're with friends, it's something you'll always be able to be like, do you remember that meal we had at that place? And the stories you tell, we've got a million, and it helps with relationships and friendships and it connections and that, but also just intrinsically you've got something in like the June of 2018 that you'll never forget. And yeah, you can't go back to, you can't wear down, you can't, rip a hole in it like you can a dress or break a heel off, So that's, I mean, it doesn't have to be a holiday. It could be an experience like going to a concert, or I don't like something that's live, something that's in the moment, I suppose, but outside of your norm. But I just think that going on a trip and traveling is probably one of the best ways to do that, because everything that's new is much more imprinted on your brain. Whereas if you're surrounded by the same all the time, it just becomes a blob of time that's kind of indistinguishable from anything else. And if anything, you're going to remember shit stuff probably better because they'll stand out more.
I'm curious that, like, maybe this is also why, and this is just me thinking out loud, Kate, but like, you know, when you get back from holiday and you're like, this is when I wore that dress in Greece, and this is when I ate that pie in the Czech Republic, like different places, but, you know, and then your colleagues are like, wow, because they're still in the boring blob, but you've cemented this moment into that photo, into the item, into the place, into the thing, that it has this big intrinsic, like you say, value to you and your memory and your happiness and you as a person. Whereas the people seeing the photo are like, okay, cool.
Absolutely. And I just think that, like, you know, and that's so important for yourself. Like, it can be deflating when friends or people could not give a shit, and that happens. But often that's, like you say, it's because they're coming up from their perspective, which is like, first of all, it has no meaning to them. Second, it's probably like another thing they haven't done. And third, some people are just fucking miserable, and that's on them, you know. But yeah, being able to talk about that thing, and I just think that's what makes, like, friendships and relationships and things more interesting and more deep. Like, especially if, you know, you get yourself in a situation that you get out of, like, we were in Iceland, you had to do all the driving, we hit a little bit of, you know, black ice, which happens, and me and
I nearly killed us all.
You did not, you did so well, you did exactly right, which was like, you didn't overcorrect, you pumped the brakes, kept driving, had a little wobble, kept going through, and we were all like, we were like, you did so well, and me and Jordy were congratulating ourselves for not freaking out.
Yeah, you both did really well, actually. Like, I know Jordy would have normally loved to just like yell at me like, what are you doing? And then you were like really calmly like, just turn the wheel. And I was like, why is she so calm? I'm gonna die, I'm gonna kill us.
But like, that's something that also, you know, think about that as well, of that like moment in the friendship where you could either have all had a freak out and a cry, which also could have been okay too, not, you know, crashing or anything terrible, but like we got through that, we laughed about it, it was like a thing that we had that bonded us even further. And I mean, I've had so many of those, like ones of my own where I'm just like, wow, I am smarter than I thought because I got myself out of these situations, and experiences again heightened and broadened. And yeah, I think going on experiences, excursions, travel, doing something exhilarating or doing something different, it literally is just so good for your like soul. It literally is, like, you'll remember it, it breaks up the monotony of the everyday. And you know, it doesn't mean, oh, I should go and live in France. I mean, obviously if you want to do that, but like, you don't have to have been like, oh, I love that more than where I'm from. No, it's just this beautiful little bubble of a thing that had it probably its ups and downs, but it's a special thing that you did, and that will always stay kind of pristine.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things of traveling as well is like, when you don't want to go home is always the best time to be going home. Like my sister, when we've traveled together, like she cries. She's like, I don't want to go home. I'm having such a good time, because that is the best time to leave, because you're remembering it and being there on a like on a high note, I suppose. Like, I've never been a person to be like, oh, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready to go home. Like, I'm always like, oh, next time I'll do this, next time I'll do that, when I come back here I'll be doing this, you know. I had something else to say. What was it on traveling? Oh, and that it also reminds you of, I'm just thinking of like a few different experiences, but especially like Southeast Asia when we went. That was one of Geordie and I's first trips together, actually. it also makes you grateful, or you have those wonderful memories, like you were saying, Kate, those lovely moments that you can refer back to and experiences, but it also makes you grateful for home as well. There also is, there's nothing, I love crispy hotel sheets, I love traveling, I love all things, but there is nothing quite like coming home. And I get this even after I've like stayed at a friend's house for one night local, but there is nothing like coming home, plopping your suitcase on the ground, jumping in your shower with the shower pressure that you know, and into your own bed as well. You know, it just makes you go, oh my God, that, you know, you have your little nest in the corner of the world.
And what appreciation, like you say, is, again, if you never leave it,
it's
harder to sort of have the novelty of it when you're back. And it's so true. I think it's good to kind of, you know, leave on a high, or sometimes you are like ready to go back, and then you come back and you're appreciative, and there's sometimes a bit of a glow about your normal life when you're back anyway, because everyone's like, well, not everyone, we've established, but some people will be like, how was your trip? Let's see the photos. Like, some people are going to hype you up, and it's kind of like, I guess, when you had to go to school on your birthday, it's like, oh, it's still school, but at least it's special because it's your birthday, and you get to glow up that sort of normality. And again, it fades, and that's why you got to plan another trip. And the planning can be fun. Like, there's just so much about it. And like, I know sometimes traveling can be expensive, and people can struggle to part with money, or at least they can think they struggle to part with money. They probably part with money regularly on things that they're used to parting with, which is like upgrading to the newest car, which would cost probably like 6 of my holidays, or, you know, getting their nails done frequently. I literally don't know how much that costs, and I think that's great if you do, but like buying coffees, whatever you decide to do, it's like you probably can do the travel. It's just weird if you've never done that before, and having to pay for flights or a hotel, and thinking about having to buy meals, or the I don't know, the tours or whatever. It can kind of maybe be daunting, but like, then that's a good challenge to set yourself, to save or to plan or to budget or to be thrifty. And like, that's all part of walnutting too, which is doing things your way, but also kind of knowing that you can do it regardless of whichever way you decide to, that you can do it.
My inner travel agent's coming out. And like, it can be done. There are lots of like payment ways and things like that. But also, I think one of the things that I struggled with in sales, and this is what potential walnuts might struggle with in justifying a travel, is it's so much money before you've had an experience. It's not like you're buying a high-tech laptop or a tangible thing that you can hold. You're actually putting all this money down for an experience, and something that you can't actually hold until you've gone to do it yet. And sometimes you're booking travel, you know, like a year to 6 months in advance. So it is a really brave thing to do, because you're trusting that you're gonna have this thing that isn't actually in your hands yet, which was a hard thing to sell when I was working there. But there are so many different ways that you can have those experiences and make those payments, for sure. And I guess sometimes it just comes down to a priority. And travel doesn't need to be like traveling abroad, or even if you're in New Zealand, to the Pacific Islands, Aussie, all the close places. Sometimes it can literally be like taking a different route to work and getting lost on purpose. It can look like all sorts of different small things that you can do to make these little experiences in your daily life and break things down a little bit more.
But I think getting a break from that routine, I mean, I'm sure everyone goes on holidays, and people, whether it's like camping nearby, but if you've done that same thing as well, like, hey, some people just love what they love, and that's absolutely fine. But like, maybe try, like you say, something a little different, and just see how it is. Or if you've got I think a really good way, like you say, is going a different way to work, or getting lost on purpose, and messing up routine, sort of like doing something new. Those little things are really great. And if you really want to just dip your toe in as well, like if you've got a friend who's, I don't know, really likes a different kind of food that you've never had. Like, I swear, I think I took one of my friends to have her first ever curry, because she'd never had curry before. And like, I could explain to her the menu and kind of gauge probably what she would like. Cause like, listen to what your friends are up to. Maybe they can bring you along somewhere. And then you've got a buddy, you've got a guide. So you're kind of like doing something new, but maybe without maybe feeling as much the risk of getting lost for real, or being late for work, or whatever the thing that maybe worries you is. Like, we'll take the, as you would say, like, take the baby step, have someone that can kind of hold your hand through it first, and see what you like from that, or see how easy maybe you found that. Yeah. But yeah, just like we talk a lot about, you know, the celebrating things, and, you know, confidence, and being happier and being grateful and all these things. And it's like, let's, you know, when our parents used to be like, we're going out for dinner, or we're going to go to the movies, or whatever, and you got those little treats, and that was fun, and it peppered your life with the excitement. I mean, hopefully you did, maybe you didn't, but my parents were great, and we would do that every now and then. It's like, you've got the control to do that to yourself, and you don't need a reason or an excuse. You know, what you say is celebrating, or investing yourself in your happiness. Like, that's a worthiness without needing to have to validate it by anything else external, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that investing in yourself with coming back to the travel thing, with a big trip like that, is probably the most fun and scarce-siding thing that I have ever done. And one of Geordie and I's last recent trips, I actually had to put more money on my credit card, the most I've ever spent on anything in the whole wide world. Not even all my personal development stuff, when you like add it all up together. Like, this was a lot of dough. But again, the word like liberating comes to mind, scarce-siding, and then when actually going on that experience after paying that, like in full on credit card, on fake air money, actually going on that experience has been the trip of a lifetime, has changed my whole life. And Geordie and I are fortunate enough to have been on like many a holiday, and we still like laugh about these little moments. Like, I should probably do an episode Walnut where I tell you all about me and Geordie's funny moments. But like, we talk about Kate when you know, I nearly killed us in Iceland. Geordie and I were actually in the South Island last year of New Zealand, and the roads were a bit funny, and we were like, remember when we nearly died in Iceland? You know, like these moments, it really does bring up this feeling that I don't think you can really get from anywhere else, really, and that culture shock and that learning something new. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and travel will always have my heart, despite not working in it again, and despite COVID and all the things. Going on holiday is one of my favorite things in the whole world.
Me too.
Yeah. Kate, before we end up wrapping up with all the things, do you want to tell the Walnuts, if they're like, oh my God, I love this single girl and I'm obsessed with her, where can I like snoop her on social media? Can you tell the Walnuts where to find you?
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is at Miss K Bromley. And I'm just Kate Bromley on Facebook. So nothing too crazy, too special. But yeah, Instagram, you could probably scroll through and see some of photos from mine and Lara's travels, that's for sure. And yeah, that's probably the best way.
Amazing. And then the token question in relation to, I suppose, travel, because we know all the ways that being a walnut means to you, Kate, but in relation to travel, tell us what being a walnut means to you.
Okay. This is going to be really cheesy, so buckle up.
But I love cheese.
You've got wings. You're a walnut with wings. So just take off. You can do it. You can fly.
Oh my God, being a walnut means you've got wings.
It's like very close to the Red Bull slogan, but I just thought like it'd be a cute t-shirt. It'd be a great t-shirt, like walnut with wings for, yeah, like go on your adventures. You can take off, like it's very much like you could fly along kind of thing, which is just go explore.
Oh my God. I love that. Been there, got the t-shirt, and then we'll get a walnut t-shirt made. This is, I'm a walnut with wings. I love that. That is my favorite. Oh my God, I'm actually so emotional. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Kate. And Walnut, if you enjoyed this conversation or you have any more questions for Kate and I, she'll be back in 10 bloody episodes. You know her, you know the drill. Jump into the walnut tree and let us know if you've got discussion points you want us to raise, if you've got anything that you're intrigued about between either Kate and I, or that you just want to hear from Kate. We're both inside the Walnut Tree free group on Facebook. And if you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot and tag us on your social medias. We would love to know that you were here and that you were listening, and to say thank you for your time. And Kate, of course, I love you. Thank you so much for all you do for Walnut Wednesday, for being here. You're my favorite, and you are sexy.
You're my favorite, and you're sexy too, even with COVID.
Thank you. Happy Walnut Wednesday, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.